working with a fully augmented force to dispel any fear that unfortunate incidents do not occur on this trip. The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the trademark.
th 1999, in a 49-minute rampage, Eric and Dylan gunned down a dozen students, one teacher, and wounded 24.
There are many benefits of the restriction of gun sales, as well as the ban on guns. Most violent crimes are committed with guns. Thus, denying gun ownership will reduce the number of such crimes. In 2008, 67% of murders were caused by firearms. Another benefit of putting more restrictions on guns would be that suicide rates would most likely decline, since most suicides are done with guns. In 2002, more than 30,000 Americans killed themselves, with over half using a gun. Most of the recent mass shootings have been done with an assault rifle. Now, had the gun control laws been more strict, perhaps they could have been avoided. These are the reasons why gun control laws should be more strict, if not completely controlled.
Ms. Lynn, what's your position on gun control?
I actually wish we could send big magnets up and down the street and draw all the guns out of homes. I've paid a lot of attention to this right now. There's about 300 million people in the United States, and there are 300 million guns possessed by private citizens. So I'm not really sure the cow is out of the barn. Is that the right phrase? There's a gun for every person, man, woman, and child in the country right now. I trust the military and the police chiefs of all the towns in this country that think that assault rifles have no business in the hands of the common citizen. Totally agree. I don't know how that ever got started. It's ridiculous. The people most at risk from those assault rifles actually are policemen. We've done a huge disservice to them. Know that there is a constitutional right to bear arms. I think that again, this is a pretty right-wing issue. If you listen to some of the people that are really strongest about gun control, they really feel like we need to be able to rise up against the government. And there are some people that threaten to go into the streets about this, but I think that background checks and trying to keep guns off the street, magazines that carry large quantities of ammunition are ridiculous. The problem is we're way too far down that road. And there's really no empirical research that says what works to keep people from doing mass shootings.
Though there is a compelling case for a restriction on guns, the right to bear arms has been reserved for the citizens of the United States by the Constitution with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is our insurance on our other amendments. The presence of armed citizens is what keeps the government honest. No government would be foolish enough to impose a dictatorship on people who have the ability to resist. Our right to bear arms keeps us safe from a totalitarian government. When Germany fell into the hands of Hitler, he was successfully able to hold power because the first thing Hitler did in Germany was round up all the guns. A restriction on gun sales does nothing. Criminals will always find a way to obtain their guns, leaving law-abiding citizens without firearms to use in defense. Banning guns will create another potentially large source of organized crime revenue, as a black market for guns will surely develop. Nations with stringent anti-gun laws generally have substantially higher murder rates than those that do not, so therefore the gun laws shouldn't be touched. The NRA, or National Rifle Association, is the #1 interest group lobbying against gun control.
All right, Ms. Benz, what's your position on gun control?
Well, I agree with our Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. And if we start limiting that right with new legislation, it goes against the exact reason why the amendment was created. You have to remember, we came out of the Revolutionary War. The way you protect yourself against the government, when the government has major artillery, is the ability to have your guns and whatever type of guns you need to protect yourself. So if the government starts limiting which types of guns you can have as a citizen, then in a time when the government starts to overrun us and we want to take action, we don't have the ability to do so, and therefore we lose, and we are then controlled by the government.
Mr. Cantrell, what's your position on gun control?
I believe we definitely need some stricter enforcement of the laws that we currently have in effect, and I think the assault weapons ban, weapons capacity ban, and the gun registration need to be enforced.
Why do you feel this way?
One of the things that I like to tell people is that if you go out and buy a new car from a car lot, you have to register that car. If you go buy a car through Craigslist, you have to register that car with the state as well. But if you go buy a gun at a gun shop like at Academy Sports, you have to register it. But if you buy it from a private dealer during a gun show, you don't have to register it. And I think it's the same thing. You need to register a gun no matter where you buy it.
Alright, about the new bill Obama is urging Congress to pass, the one about the 10-round clip max and mandatory background checks as well as ban on assault rifles, do you support that?
I do. I think it's important that the right people still have access to those weapons, and that's people in law enforcement or the military. But as civilians, I don't see what the rationale or reasoning is for someone like me even to have a weapon that fires 300 rounds a minute and a magazine capacity of 100 rounds.
Alright, well thank you, Mr. Cantrell.
You're welcome.
Views. He should opt toward the moderate view. Completely banning guns would be detrimental to the American society, as it would leave America vulnerable to a totalitarian government takeover. However, if we leave gun control laws as they are now, we leave America susceptible to violent crimes. Therefore, Obama should pass laws restricting the purchase of rifles, as well as require more in-depth background checks. By passing and enforcing these laws, we could possibly lower crime rates, as well as leave America safe from a potentially tyrannical government.
We have endured far too many of these tragedies in the last few years. So we have to come together, and we're going to have to take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this from happening, regardless of politics.